she did them, and I was aware she did them, and I just didn't know how to stop her from doing perks, and I kept warning her about fentanyl because I have a lot of friends that lost their kids. So I'm part of that club now. And I used to beg her, and tell her, please stop taking them. You don't know what's in them. In my daughter's case, is she didn't OD. For people that don't know the story, she was murdered by fentanyl. This is a picture of my daughter for the people that never seen her.
And I can't say it enough times. Do not accept anything from anyone you don't know. And even if you do know them, don't accept it unless you know what it is and where it's come from. And
I would say at my worst, I was probably taking between 30, 35, sometimes maybe 40 a day.
If anything, the way I look at it is like Sopranos saved me. When I would think like, man, what are you doing to yourself? It would be a lot easier for me to go like, stop doing this. Look at what your life could be, instead of what a lot of my friends were dealing with. And, I think it's 5 of my friends who I brought to the premieres of The Sopranos are dead now.
I had my own battle with addiction as well. The Vicodin and Percocet, that was the thing. Never, I didn't do heroin, or it wasn't coke or anything else. It was Vicodin and Percocet.
By 2005, I was a full-blown heroin addict and a crack cocaine addict.
And even people with the worst kind of mental illness have a chance if they have the capacity to be honest with themselves. The reality is we've been lying to ourselves with every drink we put in our mouth, or every puff we take, or every pill that we pop, or whatever we're doing. And then we wonder why people get pissed off at us, but we don't see that it's what we're doing. It's not my mother, my father, my brother, my uncle, my sister. No, it's me too.
The consequences are too severe for me. The damage I've done to my health, it's a fucking miracle. Nothing short of a miracle that I am still alive. So, if I can do it, any of you can do it.
When people suffer from alcoholism or drug addiction, there must come a moment when your life totally crashes. For me, that moment came when the pain was too great and the consequences were too profound. Only then did I decide to change. Recovery and sobriety is all about change, and for me, it started when I woke up in a grimy hotel room in a shitty little town in Pennsylvania. And so, if you want a new life and start a new journey of a lifetime, you've come to the right place. You want to drink? That's your business. You want to stop drinking? That's our business. Welcome to Recovery Tube.
Hey guys. All right, so we're going to do an addiction recovery show today. Well, now, and then later we'll do a regular show because I got to make money. This will be the Christmas edition. I don't know if I'll be doing one in the next couple of days or not. We'll see. But let me bring on the one and only, the infamous, the man, the myth, the legend, Don Berlin.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, all that audience applause. Please, not necessary. How you doing, my friend?
Good. How are you?
Well, not too bad. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. Happy whatever. And I hope everybody's having a very peaceful time. So what up? What's cooking, man?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we got some things to talk about today.
I guess so. What do you want to talk
What
about?
would you? I don't know.
I'm trying to give you a difficult time to make your job miserable and hard.
I know you are.
No, actually, I'll start off. And the reason why I volunteered to do tonight's show is because last year at the same time, Chris sent me a Christmas present, which was a wonderful, unexpected surprise. And it was a gold pen. And and on it, it was my anniversary. And my anniversary is Christmas Day, 1989. So day after tomorrow, uh, I will be celebrating 35 years. So in that regard, I also brought tonight, um,
Congratulations, sir.
thank you very much. I brought tonight some show and tell items that are in honor of my 35th anniversary. And is um, this is a, wait a minute here, hold on, I gotta get the right item to talk. Hopefully this won't break. This is a Mom's sour cherry butter pecan crumb pie from Mom's Bakery, all organic. It looks delicious too. Should I open it up now
Nice.
and start eating it? No, probably not. It's supposed to be for
Sure, why
Christmas
not?
dinner.
Congratulations, Don. And by the way, everybody's saying congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So anyway, so what I thought I would talk about tonight is about how things were for me when I first realized that things had gone slightly askew because a lot of people, kind of like know of me through the chat, and the only programs I've ever been on are when I was Jimmy Calandra's co-host. I was on that program, and then, as I said a couple of nights ago, that is actually where Chris and I first met. It was on Jimmy's show. I was Jimmy's co-host, and I think basically the way that show worked was, which is why it worked so well, was it was kind of like Jimmy carried the audience, but I carried the show. So if it hadn't been for Jimmy, he carried the audience. The people came to see him. They didn't come to see me. But I basically carried the show, but he carried the audience. And what I mean by that is that he really attracted people to the show itself and kept them engaged and what have you. Frankly, with his stories of redemption, of reconciliation, of come to terms with a lot of the things that he had gone through as a result of being part of the Bath Avenue crew that haunted him for many, many, many years. Okay. And prior to me becoming his co-host, Kimberly, my wife, was a guest of his, and to talk about traumatic injury and PTSD and things of that nature, for which I'm not speaking on a school here. Jimmy has talked about that many, many times on the air, of how the events of his early life continued to haunt him. So when I talked with him about that, I said, hey, why don't we kind of like incorporate that with people who likewise have suffered from addiction and alcoholism, drug addiction, so on and so forth, and the things that haunt people, suffering from that, similar kinds of things, PTSD and what have you. And then as we were talking about that, we kind of also talked about the idea of people who have served, okay, in the armed forces, people who work for the Department of Defense as contractors, people who have gone to away to war in support of the intelligence community and what have you. And one of the things that people really don't, focus upon is there are more contractors killed in Afghanistan and Iraq than there were actual soldiers, and yet they aren't really mentioned and what have you. Their families are not taken care of. They do not go down the ramp at Dover Air Force Base. They are not buried amongst the dead at Arlington. They just go away. Okay. And a lot of those families really, really suffer through that. So that was what Kimberly's practice was. She treats members of the armed forces as well as others in dealing with traumatic injury. Many of these patients were patients who survived, okay? and then suffered from drug addiction and alcoholism and what have you. And they continue to be her patients today. So I thought, that's really a great platform, to talk about addiction, recovery, PTSD, and what have you. And so that was kind of like the beginnings of my being his co-host. And then Chris came on, and that's really how we met. We didn't meet here. We met there very early on in Chris's career on MobTube. So that's how Chris and I actually met. At the time, I didn't even know, because I'm not even sure. I don't have a clear memory of this, but I don't even know whether or not the Addiction Recovery Channel was really rolling. It was mostly MobTube, frankly.
Well, I fucked up. I forgot to schedule this show on both channels today, so we're just on the MobTube channel.
All right. Well,
I'll
that's
upload
okay.
it to the other channel. I'll
Yeah.
upload it to the other channel.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So anyway, so then Chris and I, kind of met, but I don't remember. And I talked with Jimmy last week. I was asking him whether or not he remembered, but there was something that happened. I don't remember what it was, but something had happened to Chris. That's all I really remember. And he came on the air to talk with Jimmy about it. Do you remember what it was, by chance? God, I don't
remember what I did 10 minutes ago.
I understand that. But anyway, bottom line is that actually, contrary to what a lot of people in the other communities and the crazies and whatever think that we met, here, and that, this is where it all started, that is not true. We met on the Jimmy Calandra show, Bath Avenue Story, when I was a co-host. That's how we met. Now, it is true, however, that we met very early, within a few months after MobTube began. That is true. And then we became, friends and what have you. And I've always said, I've told Chris this many times, I'll say it again publicly, our common bond is not in MobTube. I've talked with Chris hours and hours and hours over the years, endlessly. 5% of our discussion has something to do with MobTube. 95% of our conversations have nothing whatever to do with YouTube or anything else. That's our lives. And it's ironic because Chris has said many, many times on the air, when the camera goes off, that's it. He's out of here. And that is the truth. We talk about people, different experiences and what have you, but nothing to do with the drama, the craziness, and what have you of MobTube per se. We may talk about our friends, in and out of MobTube and what have you, but it's a myth to believe that Chris and I sit on the phone plotting and planning and doing whatever. Has nothing to do with our discussions. Most of our discussions all day today, for the most part, back and forth, had to do with addiction recovery, had to do with a friend of ours that we're trying to help, okay? Yeah. Whom I hope is listening, and is willing to participate. And that's really our lives. That's Chris and our bond is here, not in MobTube, and in our families. That's really where our friendship began, and
absolutely,
and that's basically always been it. So to clear up all of the rumor mongering and what have you, for those of people that not necessarily on this channel or MobTube or whatever, that's the truth of what actually was the chronology of our relationship and what have you. Yep. So anyway. The other thing is, so a lot of people ask me to tell a little bit about my story because everybody has heard your story a dozen times in a dozen different ways and whatever, and I've heard it 2 dozen times. It's boring, 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 boring. Uh,
Hey, you narrated my story in the fucking intro.
well, that's true. That's true. I remember doing that. Yeah, my radio voice. Um, but anyway, so basically, given uh, it's my anniversary coming up, I always do reflect on how I quote crashed into recovery, literally. And this is something that, you know, many people have had similar experiences crashing into recovery. In my case, it was through a car windshield. So what happened to me was, at the time, I was living in Chicago, where I grew up. And I grew up way up north, but I was downtown. I was living downtown at the time, and at the time this was about 4:15 in the morning. I was going to get some chili, and I was in what is known as excuse me, the Wacker Street Underground, which is literally a city below the ground. The underground Wacker Drive goes from the north side of the loop all the way to the near south side, and it's completely underground. And it's kind of wild there. And the reason why it's called the underground is because in Chicago, which is the loop area, is actually cut in half by the Chicago River. The Chicago River is one of the only rivers in the world that goes reverse of body of water. Okay, so it doesn't go into Lake Michigan; it goes out of Lake Michigan. It's really weird in that, or I may have it in reverse, but it goes against current. So in order for that to occur, the buildings in the olden days, in the 20s and 30s and so on and so forth, had to get coal, okay, for the furnaces and what have you, off of barges that were on Lake Michigan. And they went up the Chicago River and to deliver the coal into the underground where they would go into the buildings. So that's where I was on April 15th, June roughly 9th, 1989. And a truck was going against the main north-south artery of the underground Wacker Drive, and had lost its brakes near around South Kedzie Street, and went through Wacker Drive, sideswiped me or T-boned me, and then kept on going, and then went head on into the concrete median, okay, and was killed. So I survived that, but I got thrown forward into the car windshield. Okay. Now, I know that a lot of people here, well, particularly Chris, who's like first cousin of Satan, and if you talk with the right wing religious right, because he's an atheist. So yeah, right. So I know he doesn't believe this, but I'll tell you what I believe, and that is that if there weren't a God in my life, I'd be dead today, and I would have been dead then, in the form of a Chicago Sun-Times driver who happened to be running late. Okay, now think about this. It's 4:15 in the morning. You're in the underground Wacker Drive. There's no traffic whatsoever down there at that hour of the morning, other than people delivering things and what have you. And there wasn't that night either. And he happened to be late, saw me against the pole, and called the police and the fire department. Okay. Had he not been there, had I been going a little bit faster or a little bit slower and he passed me by, I would have been dead, because I wouldn't have survived that accident. So he called and they came running, and I was ultimately taken to Northwestern University Medical Center up on the North Shore, or rather up on the north side, off of Michigan Avenue, and I was admitted there, and I was very badly hurt, and I was put into barbiturate induced coma for a short period of time, and then ultimately was moved from there to a step-down unit, an NSICU step-down unit, neurosurgical intensive care step-down unit. And then after that, I was transferred to another part of the hospital, and I was there from roughly June 9th until around November 28th or 29th. And I was told as I was leaving, as I was being discharged, listen, here's the plan, okay? You are gonna go into treatment, and you are a drug-sucking pig in the gutter and therefore need help. And we have a place for you that is willing to take you, given the fact that you still have these significant injuries. So, it's very hard to place somebody into a drug and alcohol treatment that has significant underlying medical problems. There are not a lot of facilities that do that. But for me, there was one, okay, and that was a place called the McBride Center for Impaired Professionals, or I called it the McBride Center for the Professionally Impaired. That was me. So this place, it was so cold at this place. It was way up north, okay, and it was so cold that if you didn't die, okay, if you were thinking about running away from treatment, okay, it was like being on the barrier islands. If you thought about running away from treatment, they told you don't run away, because if you do, you'll die of freezing to death before you get to the first bar. Okay, so don't do that. So, and it really was cold. I mean, they freeze dry you sober like they freeze dry coffee. Okay, that was the plan over there. So I am not happy. I'm not proud to say this, but on November 29th, when I got out, what have you. Now, keep this in mind for just a moment. Before that time, I was a person that, and I'll kind of be careful here, but I had a very good career. Okay. I had a driver's license. I was a pilot. I had a pilot's license. I had a wonderful home. I had a lot of money. I had a great job. Okay. I worked on matters literally all over the world and traveled a lot and was doing really, really well. Okay. And after that happened, the definition of my life on Earth as a humanoid came down to 3 bags of dirty laundry, okay, a walker, my computer, $358, and my health insurance card. That's all I had left, because my injuries were such that I was now seizure active, so there's no way I could drive, okay. And if you can't drive on the ground, they're not going to give you a pilot's license to fly in the air. So I lost my pilot's license. And because of that, I certainly, my career had kind of shall I say, crashed, no pun intended. And then I had no job. So therefore I had no money. And then my then wife at the time said, "Good luck and the best to you." And so now I was basically, really, really, really alone. And if anybody's been in Chicago and remembers that particular era in 1989, there was a huge snowstorm. Okay. In early December of 1989, huge snowstorm, and it was around, I would say, maybe around 3:00 in the morning. Okay, so now picture this for a second. It's 3:00 in the morning. There's no cars on the road. Michigan Avenue is loaded with, covered with snow and what have you. And there's this little guy, okay, wandering around on Michigan Avenue with his walker going this down Michigan Avenue in the snow. Okay. You know,
Yeah.
the police came by and said, "Sir, what are you doing out here?" And I said, "I'm, just seeing some friends." And they looked around and they said, well, "What friends? There's nobody out here but us in the snow. Why don't we take you, to where you live?" He said, "Where do you live?" I said, "Well, right now, I guess I just got out of the hospital, which wasn't really true. I'd been out for a couple of weeks by then. And, but I live at this hostel place and what have you." And they said, "Well, we'll take you back there, but you got to get out of here. You'll die out here." Um, so they did. And I had this friend of mine, um, who, his name is Jimmy. And Jimmy, was actually in the program. He was recovering. Okay. And I don't know why this was the case, but for whatever reason, I called him. And he answered the phone. He says, "Don?" And I said, "Yeah, it's me." And he said, "I've been waiting for this call and also praying for it too." And I said, "Why do you say that?" And he said, "Well, based upon what I saw when you were in the hospital, I didn't know that, and had no confidence that, you were going to make it. And because you were really banged up badly. And then he said, "I thought you were supposed to be transferred from Northwestern right to McBride." I said, "Yeah, but you know something? I told those guys, I got this under control. I can handle it. Okay. And let me just, go on my merry way and I'll, figure this all out, what have you." And that's an example of the power of the disease of drug addiction and alcoholism, the belief that you can handle it, that everything is going to be okay, and that, you got it under control, you know,
Yep.
notwithstanding losing everything, you know, that it's a kind of a delusion into believing that. So he said, "Well," Jimmy said, "Well, looks to me like you got two stops left, A, the morgue, or B, the bed at McBride that's still waiting for you. If you want, I'll give you a ride there." And he did. He packed up my 3 bags of dirty laundry, my computer, my $358, my insurance card, and me, and drove north, 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 and dropped me off there. And that was Christmas Day, 1989. I've been sober ever since.
That's
So,
great.
yeah,
Congratulations again.
yeah. So that's basically, my story. And I tell that story, you know, I've told it many, many times in meetings and, with friends and what have you. And it's important to retell it because, it's important to always remember where you came from. You know, one of the reasons why and I'll sidetrack here for a moment. Somebody recently asked me a question, a very compelling question. Um, and a lot of that I, basically, support the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and what have you, as a DMC. And so this individual knew that as well. And one of the questions he posed to me was, "Don, how do you reconcile in your mind state actor murder versus street actor murder?"
This
And
is an
I,
interesting one.
yeah, yeah. And I said, "Well, you know, in my belief is in God's eyes, murder is murder. Whether it's sponsored by it's state actor murder or street actor murder, whether it's a body on the street or a body on the battlefield, and you killed them, they're both dead." Okay. And
Yep.
so what's the difference between the two? How do you reconcile that, knowing the kind of work that you do and what have you? And my answer to that, is I can't reconcile that. There is no way to reconcile that. Okay. I don't have an answer for that. But what I do try to do is this: I try in my private life to do things that I can, which are random acts of anonymous kindness to people that are in trouble, that have problems, that suffer from addiction.
alcoholism or whatever it might be. That's the only thing I can possibly do. The best way I can kind of like, I don't know if this is a rationalization or the way in which I've, kind of worked on this issue is, we talk about making amends. Okay. So what does amends mean? Amends means to change, to do something that is different from the way in which you once did it. It also means to find a way to make things right and not do them again. Okay. So, when you make amends, how do you make amends to a father who is dead that you can't make amends to? You couldn't go to his funeral because you were stoned. You couldn't be present with him when he was hospitalized on his final deathbed. You couldn't be a part of the family, mourning or grieving because you were too high. How do you make amends to that dead person? The answer is you cannot do it directly. You can't do it directly. But what you can do is in that person's name, stay sober. Stay sober.
Yep.
That's the only amends you can make. Okay. So, in my way of thinking, with regard to state actor murder or street actor murder, the only amends I can make is to do whatever I can to help others who are otherwise suffering. Hence why, in part, I'm on the air tonight. That's all I can do. That's the only way I can reconcile this issue and what have you. It's kind of like very similar to, the choices that you make, Chris, to do this work, on this program and what have you, because, hey, there's no way for you to make amends to a lot of the people who are dead that you lost.
No, there certainly isn't.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I came on to talk about.
Anything else? I thought, I don't know. If not anything specific, we could just talk addiction and recovery shit back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask you something.
Yeah.
All that time sober.
Yeah.
Have you? Well, first of all, do you get cravings?
No, I don't.
Did you?
Early on, definitely. Oh yeah, yeah. Especially because remember, my drug of choice was opioids, and I did not take opioids to get high. I took them because I was in terrible pain, and it was true physical pain as I perceived it. But what happens with opioid addiction, and this is what's so cunning, baffling, and powerful about it, is that the physical pain merges with the emotional pain, with the psychological pain, with all form of pain. And for me, it manifested itself as true physical pain as I perceived it. Others, it may manifest itself as psychological pain or emotional pain or spiritual pain. Okay. And it comes out that way. For me, it was physical pain. So I was there, I was primarily anesthetizing true physical pain as I perceived it, but anybody that has suffered from or dealt with opioid addiction will tell you that the cravings, are unbelievable in the early going, really tough. Yeah, really tough. And and dangerous too. The withdrawal from it is really tough.
Certainly is.
It almost feels like someone is breaking your bones, one bone at a time and what have you. And then the hopelessness of it. I remember towards the end of, of my using whatever, I looked at this bottle of propoxyphene acetaminophen, which is which then was known as Darvocet. I looked at it and I said, you know something? If I continue to take these pills, one day I'm going to die. And if I don't take these pills, I am going to die. How do you deal with that? You know, that's the circularity of it. If I don't take these pills, I know that I will die. And if I keep taking these pills, I know I'm going to die. That was my thinking. You know, I never contemplated that there would be a way in which I could stop taking the pills and start having a happy life. That never entered my consciousness. And then to make it worse, every time I stopped taking the pills, I started to drink to try and find a way to lessen the physical pain, only to find that by drinking and the hangovers and everything else made the pain even worse. So then I'd have to go back to finding, getting more, prescription drugs to deal with the pains from the alcohol withdrawal. It was horrible. Horrible.
I forget a lot that you had a problem with pills. When you were saying a minute ago about the withdrawal, I was thinking alcohol. That's the only withdrawal I know. But
yeah, well, mine was both. Both
yes.
alcohol and drugs. And that's, boy, talk about a lethal combination. You don't want to be having cocktails with Darvocet. Not good, because it doesn't take much, and it'll be DOA.
Yeah. Somebody texted me and asked if you said how long you've been clean and sober.
Christmas Day, 1989, from both drugs and alcohol.
So 35 years.
Yeah, day after tomorrow.
Great.
Now, I will be very honest with you and tell you, because a lot of people say, well, then how do you deal with when you have to have narcotics as a result of some kind of a surgery or illness or whatever it might be? So here's what I do for the benefit of others. Number one, I tell my doctor exactly who I am, and what my story is. Okay? I'm very honest with my situation. And the doctors always will tell you, they know what they're doing. We will give you adequate pain relief to get you through this crisis, whatever it might be. But then after that, we will taper it down until there's no longer any medically indicated need for pain narcotics. Okay. I had 2 surgeries on my knees, 2 surgeries on my left shoulder. Okay, all related to the injuries, but years later, I had to have it redone again. Both of which, there's no way you can go through that without pain narcotics. It's impossible. And more importantly, doctors will tell you, surgeons will tell you, they don't want you to, because you won't recover. You don't mend well when you're in that kind of pain and what have you. So so they have to give you to you. That having been said, okay, we're all human. We all break things, okay? We all get sick. We all have, things like heart attacks and strokes and whatever, or whatever the problem is. And the bottom line, however, is tell your doctor who you are, what you've been through. Be honest with yourself first, then him, and if you can, have somebody else make certain that the drugs in which you're being given are dispensed to you appropriately according to what you're prescribed. And if you do that, you're going to be okay. You are not going to relapse. You're not.
Well, listen, I gotta shout somebody out here because this is amazing, Don. This might make you happy. Yeah. We got Christopher Drager in the chat.
Christopher,
remember Chris?
Oh yeah, right.
He hasn't been around. He came. I don't know. He was around several months ago. Maybe even a year ago. Disappeared on us for the 15th time. Yeah. And now he's back. Chris Drager, what's up, bro? Salute. Merry Christmas to you and your family, bro. You better be happy and healthy right now, motherfucker.
Yeah, he's a
I
great
hear good
guy.
News.
He's a great guy. He really is. He live up in the Baltimore area or somewhere like that, right?
I think that's where he is now. I'm not sure. That's where he was last time we talked to him.
Yeah, right. He's a great guy. Chris,
is.
God bless you for for tuning in and what have you. And I hope you enjoyed this show. And it's good to
And
see you again. I hope you're doing well. And if you're not doing well, reach out and talk with somebody that can help you, because there are a lot
absolutely.
of people that are willing to.
Jason Meisel's also in the chat. He said, Merry Christmas, everyone. I'll be watching. Just taking a break to address some issues in my life. Take all the
That's,
time you need, brother.
yeah, yeah. Well, Jason, here's my feelings about taking breaks. I think that's a good idea under certain kinds of circumstances and what have you, so long as it's not a break from reality. Okay. And that during this period that you're taking for yourself, you truly reflect on where you're at, and how you can, go forward in recovery. Um, because I'm here to tell you that this deal works out in one of three ways. You either die, you go to jail, or you go to an institution. Okay, my case
Yep.
was the latter, institution. In 100% of the cases, the fourth way is, of course, recovery. Okay, but if you continue to use, if you continue to drink, or combination thereof, the end state is always death, jail, or institution. Very, very few people, if anybody, that I've never met anybody, says, oh, well, it's over with now, I'm going to go on my merry way. I've never met anybody like that. And believe me, I've buried in my time in sobriety, every roommate I ever had in treatment is dead. Every
Jesus.
person that was in my group, okay, is dead, except one. Um, it's a fatal disease that has, as its period, finality, and always does, unfortunately. It's also one of the most misunderstood diseases. That's why they call it cunning, baffling, and powerful, because it mimics so many other kinds of things, and easy to both misdiagnose and mistreat. Um, um, it's really sad in that respect. But Jason, God bless you for being here, for listening in. I hope you find peace here. I hope you find a path here. And I hope that path brings you back here. Um,
You better.
and yeah, I do. I do. Um, there's so many
Chris-
good people there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
Well, no, what I was going to say is, we don't know how many people that we are able and have helped through the telling of our stories, the broadcasting of this show. We don't know how many people happen to fly by this channel, listen to the stories, and so forth, and said, maybe there's hope for me. Maybe I can do it too.
Yeah.
Um, I knew, because of my career, my work, and what have you, a lot of incredibly famous people in recovery, a lot of assholes too, believe me. Um, one of them was Don Imus. He sobered up about a year before me, I think in July of '88, if I'm not mistaken, what have you. And, I used to listen to him. um, Primarily until I met him and what have you, and got to know him and so forth. I used to listen to him because in early sobriety, because I said, if that guy can do what he does, maybe there's a chance for me. Maybe there's some hope for me. Um, and here I'm, 35 years later. you know, Chris has a house. I have a house. Chris has a wife. I have a wife. Chris has a family. I have a family. Chris has a job. It's doing this or mob to. I have a job. Chris has got money in the bank now. So do I.
Yeah.
Um, both of us have, in our own way, although different paths, seen, the benefits of sobriety and
Without a
recovery.
doubt.
Yeah. I always say to people, sobriety should be a money-making enterprise, and I mean that literally. Okay, you don't want to go through 35 years of misery and then land up going, broke or destitute or what have you. That's not the promised land. Believe me,
No,
it shouldn't work out that way. Um, you know, but it's an amazing journey, an amazing journey.
it is.
Yeah.
Chris Drager said that he's been sober 86 days now, clean, I should say, probably.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Chris. That's awesome, bro. And Dux wants to know, how long were you using opiates?
I would say probably from 1977 to 1989. And then, but I drank a lot longer and more before 1977. My dad died at a very young age. He was only 50 years old. He died on August 11, 1977, what have you. And it just kind of like turned my entire life upside down. I was very young and what have you. I was just a kid. I was in military school. And it just destroyed me. He was my best friend, meant everything to me and what have you. And now, I was on my own, basically. So, my answer to that was, I had a lot of friends, I mean, I did. I had a lot of friends, and my friendships were, in retrospect, kind of like centered on people who will go out, party, have fun, drink a lot, fuck a lot, you know, and run around a
Especially
lot.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially
We
that.
used to go. We used to go to these Irish bars. The Four Farthings
Oh,
was
God.
one of them, and these Irish bars. These were tough bars. They were up on the near north side, what have you. Another one was called the River Shannon. These Irish bars. The worst place you can drink is an Irish bar. Why? Because there's fucking, fighting, and fixing flat tires. That's basically your life, okay? Fucking, fighting, and fixing flat tires, which is to say, first you get into a fight, then you try to take somebody home and go fuck them, and then of course what happens is, now you're drunk as a skunk or what have you, or a shithead, and your car runs over the curb and now you got a flat tire. So fucking, fighting, and fixing flat tires. That's the whole deal. Well, at these bars on this corner on Armitage Avenue, these four Irish bars or whatever, my friends and I, we were like marauders, and I was a fighter. Okay, I was always getting into fights. I was just like not a nice guy, and always getting into these tussles and what have you. The owner of the River Shannon finally said, "I'm going to put in this." It was kind of like in a later movie, but he put in these plexiglass windows that faced Armitage, because the fights were such that people would throw bar stools or whatever at the windows. They would shatter and what have you, and people would cut people up and what have you. Well, he put in these plexiglass windows or whatever. You would throw a body against this thing, you just bounce back in the bar and then hit the guy in the head a second time. You know, So I like the bars that have plexiglass windows. Because the guy couldn't go smashing through the window or the door or what have you.
Yeah,
So anyway, but to answer your question, for about 12 years I was on opiates.
Oh, 12 years. I thought you said, wait a minute, you said
77 to 89 was.
I thought you said 87, 89. My bad.
No. 77 to 89 was.
That is a long fucking time.
It is. Yeah, it is.
You ever do Quaaludes?
No.
Thank you, Beefsteak Charlie.
Mostly Darvocet, when they had Darvocet at that time. I think now it's called Percocet, and then Dilaudid, and then Demerol. Let's see, morphine, obviously, but it was always prescriptive, and that was what the horrible thing about it was. But and especially after I got hurt, well, I was fucked. I mean, you know, then I was broken hand, broken arm, broken shoulder, broken left knee, head injury or whatever. They gave me anything I needed. And believe me, I took it. The only thing I couldn't is, obviously they weren't going to give me any booze. And that's one of the things that, I forgot to mention that is really so, horrible about opioids. And that is that if you get banged up or what have you, or fiend some kind of an illness or injury or whatever, and you go to an emergency room, you can't say, listen, do me a favor. Okay, I got this broken arm. Give me a fifth of vodka, and that will help me with this broken arm. That's not going to work at the local ER. Okay,
Yeah.
you know, but they're going to give you whatever you need for pain narcotics. So it's kind of like toward the end of my career, it was like, what do I have to do to myself in order to get into a hospital or doctor's office in order to get the drugs I need? Because I'm not going to get them off the street. I would not do that. I did not do that. Okay. That wasn't my deal. But then what really killed me was the drinking. That in the final analysis is what did it.
Yeah.
Because the two go hand in hand.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
Wait, what alcohol and what? The Darvocet?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that, like I said, I had never had an issue with. But really, though, alcohol and opiates, I never heard. I always was told that people with that do opiates don't want any part of alcohol.
That's not true. Not true.
Really?
Because alcohol depresses, and so does opioids. And alcohol does, while you're drinking, allows you not to feel pain. At least that was it for me. Okay.
That's a fatal combination, though, right?
Totally.
You stop breathing.
Yeah. It's one of the worst. It's one thing like alcohol and cocaine, you can survive for a long, long time. You use alcohol to come down, you use the cocaine to come up, and vice versa, and what have you. But that's not the case with alcohol and opioids. It's a deadly combination. A lot of people, die from it, and particularly this day and age. Back when I was using what have you, there wasn't really. I mean, fentanyl was clearly, I think, in the hospitals and what have you, they gave it to you for surgery and so forth, but it wasn't out on the streets. Today it's everywhere, and you could be looking for cocaine and what have you, and next thing you know, someone throws some fentanyl in the cocaine, and next thing you know, your lips to bricks.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand why anybody does it these days anymore. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't risk it. Fuck that.
Oh my God,
It's
so it's so frightening. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't even care like if it's uncommon or not that common. Still, you never know. It's like you're spinning it's like Russian roulette,
Totally.
Yeah.
And there are sick motherfuckers out there who will just put this stuff in, to have a body count. I mean, seriously, the cartels, they don't care about it. As far as they're concerned, the more dead people, the better. Because it inures to their benefit, So, and they're just flooding the streets of America with fentanyl, and but that may be all changing pretty soon. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in that, but it's,
Yeah, right. It's nothing's changing.
No. I think.
Listen, our government wants it here. Believe me.
Well, I don't know if I would go that far and say that. I think foreign governments absolutely want it here and do whatever they can to make certain it gets here. Okay.
No, but historically, our country, our government lets these drugs in here. So what makes fentanyl different? You know what I mean?
Well,
they literally place the drugs here in some cases throughout history. So.
I don't know that I necessarily would go that far. I think what happens is that the government programs to try and stop the inflow of drugs is misplaced and is not effective. That I would agree with. Now, to associate that with some malevolent intent that they're purposely allowing it in to kill people, I don't know that I would necessarily go that far. I will
Well, you
say
look at
this.
places like look at places like West Virginia,
Yeah, yeah,
the Appalachian Mountains and shit.
yeah,
These people, you ever watch these documentaries on these people? They call it
mm,
hillbilly heroin.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just all these towns just filled with this shit. It's people dying left and right. Now
yeah.
they do nothing about that. Why is that? Not to mention everywhere else in America it's taking place.
Well, I think it's partly because of allocation of resources, partly because of the flood is so profound and significant that they're not addressing the problem adequately, so that they're getting to the bottom of a solution that is more holistic in nature, and frankly, in some cases, they just don't care,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They don't care.
and
They
they
don't give
figure,
a fuck.
okay, well, less junkies the better.
It's population control. That's all
And
it
there's
is.
a lot of that.
Yeah. Did anybody else notice? Did Don's sound change completely, or is it just me?
Hold on, am I still here?
I can't. Your challenge. Your
Can you hear me?
Your sound changed completely.
I think I lost you. Hold on.
I can hear you, but
What is going on with my connection?
Don's sound changed. Yeah.
Hold on 1 second here.
You guys hear me okay?
How about now? Can you hear
Oh,
me
there
now?
you go. You're back now.
Yeah. Yes. I'm in the car and I had you in my ears. Hold on 1 second here. I apologize. Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now?
Now you fucked it all up again.
Hello?
Yeah, now it's all different.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah, stay that
Yeah,
way. Stay that way. How
yeah.
dare you?
All right. Sorry. I was fucking
The,
wrong.
Drager said the fucking feds are tapping us.
Well,
So let me ask you this, Don. Since we're
yeah.
doing this today,
Yeah.
this is my concern for the holidays. I always worry about people.
Mm.
I remember being alone on holidays and all that shit, or even when I wasn't alone and I just tried. I would promise myself on Thanksgiving or Christmas, well, I'm not going to use anything today, no matter what. And then you wind up using. There's people that commit suicide. There's all types of stuff that go on during the holidays. It's a very dark time for some people. So, what is your advice to people that have to make it through the holidays without relapsing or, God forbid, hurting themselves? I mean, or what is your advice to prevent them from doing that, I should say?
It largely depends upon if you're already in recovery or not yet in recovery. So let's hypothetically talk about the people who are already in recovery, okay, and are already sober. The main thing is don't be alone. Okay, don't be alone. Don't isolate. Get with your friends. Go to clubs. If you're into AA or 12-step programs, participate. Call people that who are your friends, and meet them for coffee. But don't isolate and stay, home alone and whatever, and watch YouTube day and night alone. Okay, bad, because it's that isolation. And I always believe in the disease model. I believe that alcoholism and drug addiction preys on people so that they will be isolated, that they will be alone, that they will be separated from their support system. Why? Because that's when it does its toy craft. Okay? That's when it does it best. It gets you while you're alone. It separates you from the people who might otherwise say, hey, Chris, listen, not a good idea maybe to be going to this bar on Christmas Eve just to have a Coke. Okay. Maybe we should go to Starbucks and have a chat, or what have you. That's what I'm just using that as one illustration. So for people in recovery, and want to stay in recovery and stay sober, number one thing, don't isolate. And find things to do. If it's going to the gym, if it is taking walks, if it is what the things in which you love to do or can do that don't isolate you from others is the best thing. That's one of the things, that was so destructive about COVID, and why the incidence of drug addiction, alcoholism, and deaths and whatever went skyrocketing. It's just because of that, the isolation that COVID caused. So that's what I would say about for people, in recovery. For the people who are not in recovery, well, I'll make this as simple as I possibly can, and this may sound trite, okay? Don't drink, don't use drugs for that one day, if you can do that. You don't have to worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow may never come. You could get run over by a bus, okay? But just try and make it through the 24-hour period of that particular moment. I always say live like a dog, okay? Dogs, the wonderful thing about dogs are that they live totally in the moment. They don't have rear view mirrors. They don't. They don't live in the past. They look forward, and live their lives that way. It's one of the wonderful things about being a dog owner and what have you. So, I know that doesn't give a lot of, maybe, sage advice and what have you, but I try to keep things as simple as I possibly can.
Yeah, Chris Capello just said, "Don't hang out in the barber shop if you're not getting a haircut."
Well, I always say the same thing. If you don't want to slip, don't go to slippery spots. Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't want to relapse on drugs or alcohol, say alcohol, don't go to bars. Go to Chick-fil-A. You'll be okay. Meet your friends there. But not at bars. Don't go to Christmas parties where they're going to be serving alcohol. Go to someplace else that isn't.
Well, what makes it difficult is that, especially, I mean, I've never been anywhere else, but I know in America, there's fucking alcohol everywhere. It's impossible to escape. Totally. So even for people that, whether they're in recovery or they're just trying to drink for, trying not to drink for that one day, even if you go to see family, there's going to be alcohol. No matter where you go, there's going to be alcohol. So it makes it super tough,
It does. It does. But there are ways that you can protect yourself from the temptations and the cravings. And that includes, like Chris, what you just said, going to a family, remember, we're only 10%. Okay. In other words, roughly in rough terms, 10% of America is addicted in rough terms. Okay. So the other 90% are reasonably sane people. That's not us. Okay. That is not us. So you can't expect that the 90% are going to say, okay, well, we're not going to drink or have a good time or what have you, because we got to be mindful of the 10%. That's unreasonable to ask that. But what you got to do is you got to find compensatory strategies that in some way or another can protect you and your sobriety against the temptations. And that may include early sobriety. It certainly did for me. I didn't go to parties. I didn't go to family events and what have you that included alcohol and what have you. I stayed away from it, and I hung out with my friends in recovery. That was my new family in the very beginning. That's what I had to do in order for me to survive. So
I hear you.
I mean, it's kind of like, okay, so tonight is tonight Monday? I can't even remember. Is today Monday? Yeah, it is. So Monday night, I'm sitting here in the parking lot in front of the Dunkin' Donuts place. One moment, please, for my little show and tell here. You see the DD up there? Yeah.
Go get a donut. What the fuck you doing?
Yeah, exactly. So,
go get a plain bagel with butter and orange juice.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, I know you probably can't stay on a lot longer. Bobby wants to know if there's sober meetups.
There are actually sober bars And that's a very big thing. I mean, I don't, I'm in the Washington D.C. area, so, but that's a big thing. These sober bars are juice bars, really, but they don't serve alcohol of any type. And you may want to look up one, in your, area or neighborhood or whatever to see if they offer that. But in the DC area, that's a big thing right now. It has been for several years.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. There's these coffee places now that are incredible. Um, coffee places that have all these different type of coffees and what have you, and teas and pastries and that kind of stuff and whatever. And there's social gathering spots, in and around the DC area.
Wow.
It's really
That's interesting.
nice. Yeah, no, it is. But my only point is that
maybe I'll open up a sober bar. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know something? I knew another friend of mine who wasn't sober, whatever, but nonetheless, he had a bar called the Insane Bar. Okay, and he bought art written by or done by insane people. He bought John Wayne Gacy's one of his pieces of art at an auction. Honest to God.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. He was a weird kind of a guy, but hey, it was pretty humorous still. And he had all this art by these schizophrenics. He had psychotic art. I mean, it was bizarre, and it was beautifully framed around the bar and what have you. Needless to say, the place went broke, but that's a different issue. That was because of him. He was likewise insane. But did I ever tell you the story about the guy, the gas can and the coin? My friend, the gas can and the coin. Did I ever tell you that story? I think I did.
I don't think so.
This is a guy. This guy, was first cousin to Lucifer. Okay, so he owned this bar. I met this guy in a meeting. This is like I want to say, I think I was around like 2 or 3 years sober. Oh my God, I'll never forget this. So this guy decides he's going to give the lead. Okay. For those of you who don't know, but because you haven't been to AA meetings, whatever, in a speaker meeting, oftentimes there'll be one individual. It's very similar to what you used to, Chris, at Claremont, and where you would give a talk and what have you. Not necessarily around the AA construct, but same principle. You would give the lead, or you would be the speaker for the night, and you would share your story. Same thing in AA. So this guy now is about just under 30 days sober. And he tells the story whenever he says, listen, I just got out of prison. I did 8 years for arson and 2 years for attempted murder. And it was boxcarred, so I did 10 in total. And I got out in 8 years, and I got clean and sober inside prison. And he went on to explain, one day I was at this bar that I really liked going to and what have you. And the bartender, the owner, had this enormous jar on the third stack of the bar bottles, in front of a mirror. And in that jar were people's AA chips. And if they turned in their chip, okay, they got a free drink. Well, I mean, you talk about Satan on earth. That kind of guy deserves. Yeah. That guy deserves in hell. Okay, for doing something like that. But that's what he did. Okay, so this guy, that his name is Sam. Sam says, he turned in his chip. He started drinking, whatever. He got mad. He got angry. It all turned into sideways anger. And he said, and the way I dealt with that anger over having lost my 18 months of sobriety probably wasn't the best way. And the way was that I went to the local gas station and I got myself 10 gallons of gas and I burned the bar down with him inside.
Damn.
Yeah, right. Yes, yeah. And he said, when I left and the place was on fire with him inside, I said, to myself, that will teach you, you motherfucker, you. Okay. So when the police showed up and were at his house, and he was denying everything, he said, well, what's that smell of all that gasoline inside your house? And needless to say, he confessed. He was drunk actually when this happened, whatever. And he did 8 years on that. But that's a kind of an illustration of what you will do to resolve anger outside of sobriety. Okay, just burn the bar down. It's kind of a sad situation, but I mean,
It's crazy.
it is sort of a remarkable story when you think about it.
Yeah, I'll
You
say.
know, and his justification was, I'm doing a good deed by getting rid of this place and stopping the relapses. That was his theory.
And what happened to him?
He did 8 years for arson and attempted murder
Jesus fucking
in
Christ.
Dodge Correctional Center in
What
Wisconsin.
an asshole. Well, he got 8 years clean time while he was gone.
That he did, and that's what he talked about. He said, I'm grateful for, both the fire, and I'm grateful that I burned this guy's ass nearly to the ground. He won't be getting people to relapse any longer.
That's crazy, man. Well,
Honestly,
listen, he got his revenge. Mike Fleming, what's up, bro? Good to see you.
Yeah.
So you got to get going, Don?
No. I'm just here watching the donut line. Everybody's getting their donuts and what have you.
A lot of cops over there?
I haven't seen any cops, but there are. It's pretty busy outside, actually. Believe it or not. I'm way out west right now. I actually have this week off, thank God.
Do you?
So yeah.
That's
So, any questions by anybody? Comments, criticisms, complaints? Any points of order or what have you?
Let's see where are the comments at. The questions, actually. Ask Don questions right now or else.
Yeah.
Any questions you have for him?
Yeah. Any questions? And make certain you do it. Otherwise, I'll call Sam up and have your house burned down.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just say you're just joking, Don.
No, not really.
Listen. I do not. I think that's a bad idea. I would. I'm not complicit in anything that happens. I promise. The feds are watching this show probably, so don't blame me. I tried to get Don to take it back, but he wouldn't do so.
No.
And nobody should burn anything down.
No. Probably not a good idea. But sometimes I feel that way, I mean,
yeah.
I was telling another friend of mine earlier today that there are days when, people ask me, well, Jesus, 35 years is such a long time. I mean, it's incredible, how much time that is. I said, my friend, some days it feels like I'm 35 minutes sober, truly, to this day. I have, on one side of the coin, I have accomplished incredible things in sobriety. I used to have this saying that I learned in a meeting, which was reach high for your highest hopes, dream your greatest dreams, and every one of them will come true, and many more that you never even thought were possible if you can stay sober this day only. Okay. So, I have dreamed my greatest dreams. I have reached high for my highest hopes, and I have received every single one of them have come true, and many, many more. I never thought I would one day meet the love of my life and the heartbeat of my soul, Kimberly. I never thought that was possible. Okay.
The wonderful Kimberly.
Yeah. And it was possible. I never thought that, I would live on a farm and build a farm and then raise dogs and have horses and then, have a career like, I have and what have you, and become a senior executive in government and what have you, as a DMC. and an SME. I never thought I would be able to, go back to school and learn so many different things that I can't really talk about, but that that I use every day. People ask me, they say, Don, thank you for your service, and I always tell everybody the same thing: don't thank me, don't thank me. Thank my wife, thank my friends, thank my God, because without any of those, it would not be possible for me to do the work in which I do. I'm not the
That's
person
right.
to thank. Okay. The persons to thank are my friends, my family, my God, my country. I've always believed that. Um, but sobriety has brought me just incredible, um, incredible hope and dreams. And I also will say this, that if I thought that I had faced the racket of wreckage before I got sober, okay, that ain't anything compared to the racket of wreckage after I got sober. More horrible things have happened to me in my life after getting sober than all of the things that happened to me before I got sober, minus the accident, okay? Um, but the difference is I'm able to deal with them. I'm,
Exactly.
you know, I'm able to take responsibility over them, my part in it anyway, and try and make my way through it, sober and clean, to the best of my ability. And believe me, there's nobody on this channel more imperfect than me. Okay, um, but what I can say is I do try my hardest. You know, and I do try and spend time with people who reach out to me and ask for help. Um,
That's what you got to do sometimes.
well, yeah, it is. I spent a lot of time today with a friend of ours. As we say, Tony Soprano used to say, a friend of ours,
Yeah.
uh, and I told him, I said, listen, I am not doing this for your benefit. You know, remember, basically drug addicts and alcoholics, we are selfish motherfuckers. We are, okay? Because of all the things that we did. All
Oh,
right.
without a doubt.
Yeah. And my rationale, my reason for spending the time in which I did with this individual and what have you was born out of me wanting to make certain that I never forgot the road he is traveling and that I once did travel and could again soon if I don't do what I'm supposed to do. You know, every one of us that is in recovery is only one drink, one line, one piece of marijuana away from the next disaster. And it may be your last. And you got to look at it in those terms.
Yep.
So uh, that's my take on things anyway.
All right. Let me ask you a few quick questions.
Yes.
Let's see. Don, do you recall a restaurant called KK's?
KK's. I don't. Ask the person where was
It's war. It's war. So.
Oh yeah, Bill. Uh, no, I don't remember. I only hung in two areas. Okay, well, three areas. I always started on Rush Street because that was where the pretty people were, and it was cool, cosmic. I've been there. We'll get on down Rush Street, the Boulevard for Busted Dreams. That was me. And then as things became more, shall I say, iffy as the night went along, I really needed to do something to become the head degenerate of all my friends. So where did I land up? In Cicero. Okay. Usually at toothless bars. That is to say, women who had no teeth left. That's where I would land up, in Cicero, West Side, so that was the second place. And then occasionally down where Ward is at, I used to land up down at Greco's, which was at 95th and I think I don't know, 95th and something. I think that was in, I can't remember the city. He would know. 95th and something. It's a famous Italian restaurant.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. So, but KK's I don't remember. I'd have to know where it was.
Let me see here. Mr. Berlin, do you know, in a nice parallel universe, you would not have had these drug issues? In this universe, the Gov is indifferent to the suffering of its people. He's talking about the government being indifferent to the suffering of Americans, which he's right.
I would not, again, I would not go that far. I would probably say that indifference, what you see as indifference, is malpractice, malfeasance, ineptitude, and programs that just don't work. Let me give you an example. Okay, this is a true story. It doesn't relate to drugs or alcohol, but okay. So I was doing some work today and what have you. You see all of these, okay, all of these cat card holders and badge holders and whatever, and
Yeah.
various different things, that I got to carry around to get into various different places. And each one of these plastic things has two different badges in it. All right. So now one of them, which I, one of them, here, hold on one second here. I want to show something here. This is a perfect example.
They get you in the doors where?
Many places.
Okay.
So
I already know.
here's one here. Now you see that gold thing down there? Okay.
Yeah.
The gold thing. Okay. So that is your identity intelligence package, which is embedded into the card. It's known as a CAC card. So that thing raises slightly over the surface of the CAC card. In order to get that in there, they had to lengthen this by about a 19th of an inch. So they redesigned them so that they would be, high security, badges and what have you. So now the contract officer, has to order new CAC card holders because you can't scratch these things. If you scratch them and they get invalidated, you would not believe what you have to go through to get a replacement. You got to get in line. You got to get your trusted agent to fill out another form, yada, 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 yada. Okay. So it's very important to have a CAC card holder to put them into. So the contracting officer, after they redid the CAC cards and IDs and badges and whatever, had ordered $47 million in CAC card holders from the CAC card holder manufacturing company. Okay. Guess what he forgot to do?
What?
Measure the CAC card thickness and length to make certain that it would fit into the CAC card holder. And literally in Odenton, Maryland today, there's $47 million in CAC card holders that don't fit the CAC cards.
Christ. Wow.
That's your U.S. government. Okay.
Yeah.
That's an example of what this gentleman or lady or whomever said as indifference to the American people and what have you. Again, simple things that you would normally expect people to think about. Maybe we should measure this fucking card in depth and length to match it against the thing in which it's supposed to go into. Okay.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah, right. So today, CAC card holders are not any longer single. You see, they go like this. Okay. There's one here, and then there's a backside to it over here. So every one of them has the ability to hold two, because obviously if you don't do that, then you've got 12 different CAC cards around your neck and whatever, going down the street, clank, 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 clank. So here's the moral of this story. And again, it goes back to this person's question. Why is it necessary to have 10, 12, or whatever different badges to get into different facilities for different reasons, different accesses or what have you, when today we have the technology to put everything you need to have on one badge? I don't understand that. It has baffled me in all the years I've worked in this business. Why they can't figure that out? As
I
simple
don't
as
know.
that. Okay, banks do it. People that work at facility management, controlled facility management, they are able to do it, and yet government can't. Burns my fucking ass. But it is what it is.
Well,
Next
listen,
question. Next
maybe you
question.
got to be the one to fix it.
Oh, please, Jesus. You know, we're taking to take an act of Congress. Who's going to be the guy that says, geez, we need to buy some U.S. government surplus. Let's go down to the $47 million CAC warehouse and get all those CACs. They're sitting out there. Honest to God.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Fucking James Bond problems.
It's unbelievable.
Let's see.
Unbelievable.
Let me see what somebody said. Soto said, Don, what the fuck? Where did it go? I don't know. I can't find it now. He said, Don, thank you for the advice and not judging, basically. I think that's what he was saying. What he was saying.
Yeah. But, looking in the light most favorable to the person that asked that question for a moment, it's a logical question to ask. It really is. Because that's the way it does feel. Okay. It's like remember when what was it? United Healthcare situation occurred,
Yeah.
and I taped that broadcast, and I gave it to you.
Yeah.
Remember that? Okay. That's not too far from the truth. That's exactly the way they truly do feel. You have a little need for brain surgery? No problem. Okay. We'll give you a lot of radiation and light you up like a Christmas tree. But insofar as, any brain surgery, forget it. Not necessary.
Yep.
It's
fucking scumbags.
Yeah. God. It's really.
What do you think of Luigi Mangione?
I have a theory about that. It's a kind of a wild theory and what have you. But and please don't misunderstand this. This is not to excuse his behavior, which was reprehensible. Unlike you, I'm not a murderous freak that says the guy deserved it. Fuck.
He did.
What the hell is wrong with you? Please, come
Hey,
on.
listen, I don't like serial killers.
What's wrong with them? I mean, people in the military were serial killers.
Well, you did say murder is murder is murder, so.
Yeah, right. Murder is murder. Okay. So anyway, no, seriously. I think that where that case is going to go, because they're very limited defenses, I don't think that it will go to the guilt or innocence of the party. Okay. The evidence is overwhelming. He's going to get, he would get, absent a defense that isn't really an insanity defense, but is loss of control. That it's kind of like similar. He would be easily, convicted and what have you. So this is a death penalty case. In other words, they're going to fight to try and save his life, essentially. Okay. So what that means basically is they're going to try this case based upon the idea that that there is evidence in mitigation. Okay, there's mitigating evidence. So what would be that mitigating evidence? Mitigation, by the way, evidence doesn't mean innocence or guilt. It doesn't mean that they're contesting the person's guilt. What they're saying is that there are extenuating circumstances which would warrant a lesser penalty than death. That's basically what they're saying. So my theory is that what happened to him was that, first off, we know that his mother suffered from a debilitating illness that resulted in her falling, as I recall, and then could not get quality health care and basically became virtually a cripple. Okay.
Wait a minute. Is that confirmed? Because I read that story a while ago and people were telling me it wasn't true.
That's not what I understand. So we know that piece of evidence is out there. Whether or not it's at the level in which he portrays it, that's a different issue. Okay, I don't know. We also know that he had some kind of spinal problems that resulted in significant surgery to include, hardware in his spine. Okay.
Yep.
And anybody who's ever had any, significant back injury, and particularly that kind, knows that, obviously that involves a lot of pain. And you can also surmise that if he had that kind of radical surgery, there was plates and pins and what have you, he had to have a lot of pain narcotics as well at some point or another. My theory is that that this guy got addicted to pain narcotics and ran out of runway, couldn't get any more of it, and he may have gotten some off the street, because that's not an uncommon phenomenon. You can't get it from a doctor's office, and now you're so desperate you go to the street. Okay. And I think what happened to him was that that he went into some form of psychosis as a result of the pain and what have you, and the result of the horrific care that he was getting or unable to get because of his insurance company. He didn't have United Healthcare supposedly, but he had somebody else, and maybe that in his twisted mind, resulted in him saying, okay, the solution here is clearly like Sam, the arson man. Okay, I'll burn down his barn and burn him too. So his solution was, I'm going to kill this guy. That's what I think is. I may be like maybe in the right bowling alley, but the wrong lane, but something like that.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, Don, thank you
Yes.
for coming on, sir.
No problem. No problem. God bless
Appreciate it.
everybody. Have a merry, merry Christmas. Stay sober, stay strong, and as I always say, stay 2 steps ahead of the mortician too.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to you, Kimberly, and your family.
Thank you.
And I'm sure I'll talk to you before then or on Christmas or something.
And,
But
what was the last thing that I told you before we got on the air about the box?
oh yeah. I can't wait. Oh, I got to see what this is.
The greatest Christmas present. And by the way, people, okay, Chris is not a very, very difficult person to find. All right. And I'm certain that, if you ran out like this afternoon to, maybe Amazon or some other place and wanted to send him a Christmas present, there is still time to get it delivered in time for Christmas. And I bet you that he would probably, be willing to wait. And even if it came late, mine is coming late.
That's all right. I'm sure it'll be worth it when it gets here.
Absolutely. The greatest present you've ever received. I guarantee everybody.
I can't imagine. I'm so fucking excited. I want to see what it is.
It's coming in 2 parts, and because these people, I don't understand them. I can't get into that because that will ruin everything. But I guarantee you, okay, when you open up this thing and show it to everybody after Christmas or after it comes, that you're going to say, and especially if you read the card on the air that goes with, this thing is like incredible.
Is it going to make people jealous?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely.
What is this? Oh my God.
Absolutely. In fact, hopefully, it won't make them so jealous that they shoot you to get it.
Well, listen, it's always a risk. I could get shot at any given time. I mean, it's pretty much how I've lived my whole life. So
Right.
We'll see.
All right. I'll give you one hint. Okay.
Okay.
And everybody else can kind of like see if they can, and I'll give you one hint. Okay.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Zoom, zoom.
Zoom.
Zoom, zoom.
Zoom.
Right.
Huh,
Think
okay
about
then.
that. for the rest of tonight. I hope you get no sleep.
For the rest of is it a car?
No. I
A dirt
decided to
bike?
buy.
A motorcycle?
I decided to buy a U.S. government surplus F-15. Okay, and it's going to be delivered by UPS.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Michael Hensley said Don Berlin is a good man.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Thank
Michael
you.
is a Marine.
I know.
And one of my
Michael,
favorite people.
one of my postings was at Quantico, which is Marine Corps, not headquarters, but is a major training facility in this area in Southern Virginia. But I liked it down there. I really liked it, and I liked the Marines down there were really, God, they were tough guys. Let me tell you, I used to work out with them. Okay, and I don't know how they used to go up these mud mountains, okay, that they would literally wash down in mud and with water to create mud piles, and then have to march up these things in boots and what have you, slipping and sliding and what have you. It was really crazy, but yeah, it was crazy training. What have you. Well, that was a long time ago, though. But anyway, I don't know where Mike was stationed at. He told me one time, or he said it on the air once. I can't remember where he was stationed. He wasn't at Camp Lejeune. I think I thought he said it was someplace down south, but I can't remember where. Or maybe it was Cherry Island. I can't remember what he said. But anyway. All right.
Frank Rizzo, who likes to troll Tony Pizza, said Don needs to apologize to Two Machine Gun Tony for saying that he bangs his boy dog. Tony is all man. If he banged any dog, it would be a girl dog.
Yeah. Listen, Tony, there's a boy that you see, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of people's assessment that he's a stone cold alcoholic or drug addict. I don't think that that's the case with him. I think he drinks and he uses, no question about that. But I don't think that's his primary problem. His primary problem is strictly mental illness and institutionalization, in this case on the street. But that's just my own personal opinion. I just don't. Even when he has been using and drinking and what have you, and gets on the air and so forth, doesn't have the feel of somebody who is really crashing down hard. It just doesn't. I think most of his issues.
He crashed down hard when he was 16. He hasn't gotten up since.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's the whole problem. But
Exactly.
I think for him, someone asked me recently, what do you think of, that's the closest, parallel that you can make of, what Tony Pizza, is. And I said, the closest I can think of, the closest creature I can think of is, the roach on the hot sidewalk that keeps dancing. That's what he reminds me of. The roach on the sidewalk, literally. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I see him, as a dancing roach on the sidewalk.
Yeah. And whenever anybody, shines a light on a colony of roaches, what do? Okay. First off, remember, roaches attract other roaches, hence the people in the chat. And secondly, once you illuminate that roach, the king roach, he's the king roach, okay, what do all the other roaches do when they get illuminated by light or what have you? They run, okay, for the hills. That's that group. I mean, wow. But to me, it's fascinating. I look at it from I forgot to tell you the story about how I first discovered YouTube, but I'm not going to get into it now. I'll tell it some other time. It's too long of a story. But bottom line is that I look at it, strictly from the clinical perspective, okay, of the entire amalgamation of characters and the evolving stories and the subplots and all of the things, involving the social order that occurs in this community and what have you. I mean, it is an amazing community in many respects, strictly from a clinical perspective. And it's got so many different types of different characters and what have you. One more bizarre than the other, and myself included. I include myself, and you especially. Jesus Christ.
I'm a character.
That you are. Yeah.
Michael Hensley said Okinawa and Lejeune, and he went to for boot camp. Did he say
Paris Island?
Paris Island, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
So somebody guessed that this gift is a skateboard, but it's not a skateboard. I know it's not.
No. Well, how do you get zoom to skateboard?
Because they go fast. Zoom.
I guess so.
I don't know. Is how big is this box?
Pretty big.
Really?
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, pretty big.
All right.
Yeah, it definitely isn't small or something in which you can kind of like put in your pocket or whatever. And you can tell Shauna is definitely not jewelry for her. Okay, I'm sorry. It isn't that. I would have it. It's this is big. I mean, really, really big.
I can't fucking wait. All right. Well, thank you, Don. Thank you for joining us. This was a great show. Merry Christmas to you, Kimberly, and the family.
Thank you. Same to you. And God bless your mother. Tell her I'll light a candle in church for her and think of her, and God bless her. She's, I've had countless conversations with her, and she's a very special soul. I don't know how, and I don't know why she ever, kept on hoping and praying for you that somehow or another.
You ain't shit,
I mean, that woman is a saint. Her papers have been pre-stamped sainthood, HOV lanes to heaven, because she put up with you, the likes of yous. Okay, it's true.
And you haven't even talked to my brother yet. You think I'm?
Oh my God, I would love to meet him. I would love to meet him, because
I'm sure you will someday.
Yeah, he sounds like my kind of cat, truly. Because I can relate to the fighting and what have you. I've broken my hands on people, and not intentionally. It just happened to work out that way. But so I can relate. All right, but he sounds like one interesting guy.
He certainly is.
Yeah. And what's inspirational about it is the fact of what he did with his life, on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Turn it around completely.
That's the miracle, my friends. That's the miracle. We all have, a chance. We all have hope. We all can dream. And things will come true for you. So anyway, listen, God bless. Have a good day, a better tomorrow, and everybody have a great Christmas.
All right. Talk to you soon, Don.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Right. See ya. All right, guys. So there you go. The one and only Don Berlin. Giving his advice, his words of wisdom, telling his story. It's always great to have him on. So I want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to say this to you before I leave. First of all, write down these phone numbers. Okay. 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Write down the National Addiction Hotline, and go to nextdistro.org to get your free Narcan, or else you're going to go on Don Berlin's fucking naughty list, and you don't want that. Other than that, stay strong through throughout the holidays. I know it's not easy. Email me if you have my number. Call me. Text me if you need to talk. Any time of any day. I don't care. I'm here for you. Everybody in the chat's here for you. And don't forget, you're not alone. You're part of this community. And we all love each other here. It's a wonderful family we have. So don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. All right, guys. I'm going to I'm trying to make a decision whether I should go live now with a regular show or if I should do something else and come back. I need to make money today, so I'll be back. I'll be back. Just watch out for love you too, Drager. Watch out for a notification. It's very important. Got to do a big show tonight. Maybe I'll come right on. We'll see. All right. Thanks for everything, guys. I love you all. And until next time, stay clean and sober, or else.